Welcome to the Local Housing Strategy Briefing on Main Issue 2, House Condition, Energy Efficiency and Fuel Poverty. It considers the extent and nature of housing disrepair across Shetland and its impact on local households and communities. It looks at the role of housing quality in addressing fuel poverty and regenerating communities. It assesses the impact of housing investment and home energy efficiency in Shetland on households, communities and on our climate. The Local Housing Strategy will set out the vision for housing supply and housing services in Shetland over the next 5 years. To build a new local housing strategy, Shetland Islands Council and partners must set a new vision for homes and communities and set out priorities for action to tackle the main housing issues locally. Based on analysis of the local housing system in Shetland, it is proposed that the new local housing strategy is developed around the following 4 main issues. 1. Housing supply and placemaking. 2. House condition, energy efficiency and fuel poverty. 3. Promoting independent living. 4. Homelessness and housing options. This briefing sets out evidence, insight and questions on the key issues which will influence decision making on house condition, energy efficiency and fuel poverty. This local housing strategy briefing sets out the evidence and facts on housing condition, energy efficiency and fuel poverty. It sets out a starting point for decisions on how the new local housing strategy should enable the improvement in housing quality, energy efficiency and fuel poverty. It raises questions and sets out the evidence on housing condition and disrepair, the impact of fuel and housing-induced poverty on local households with low incomes, the energy performance of Shetland housing stock and the impact of energy improvement programmes, the role Shetland will play in tackling climate change. There are over 11,000 dwellings in Shetland to meet the needs of the local population. Most homes in Shetland are located in the owner-occupier sector, 73%, which is significantly higher than in Scotland, 62%. The social housing sector accommodates just under 1 in 4 households living in Shetland. Shetland has fewer older homes than the Scottish average. 25% of Shetland's homes were built pre-1945, compared to the average for Scotland that is 30%. Shetland has a higher proportion of houses than Scotland. 93% of homes in Shetland are houses, with 7 being flats. In Scotland, 64% are houses. Shetland has fewer smaller homes than is the case in Scotland. A third of homes in Scotland have 2 bedrooms or less, compared to 50% in Scotland. Below tolerable standard and disrepair levels in Shetland's homes are around the Scottish average. As at the 31st of March 2021, 100% of Shetland Housing Association stock met the Scottish Housing Quality Standard, and for Shetland Islands Councils it was 76% of stock. Shetland Islands Council's scheme of assistance sets out the means by which the Council will provide advice, information and assistance to homeowners, eligible tenants and disabled occupants living in private sector housing. The aim of the scheme is to help improve the quality and to meet the needs of disabled occupants of private sector housing stock in Shetland. There are 2 main elements of assistance. The advice and information element is provided by Shetland Housing Association's one-stop shop on behalf of Shetland Islands Councils and gives advice and carries out disabled adaptations, repairs and maintenance. Assistance can be provided in a variety of ways, from property inspections, provision of a home maintenance plan, advice on loans and grants, as well as assistance in preparing applications for funding, assistance with planning and building warrant applications, as well as general advice in relation to maintenance and improvements. Financial advice is provided through grants or interest-free loans. In addition to these two main elements, a handyman service is provided through the one-stop shop to undertake small repairs and adaptations to properties. Home Energy Efficiency Programmes for Scotland, HEEPS, is the Scottish Government's initiative to tackle fuel poverty and increase energy efficiency in homes. HEEPS is a cluster of programmes currently including area-based schemes, Warmer Homes Scotland and Home Energy Scotland Loan Scheme. From 2013-14 to 2018-19, Shetland has been awarded £5.3 million in grant. Over 1920, 110 non-eco-funded measures were completed. Underfloor insulation accounts for 1 in 4 completions, followed by internal wall insulation, loft insulation, and then external doors. The Scottish Housing Condition Survey of 2017-19 reveals 33% of households in Shetland are estimated to be fuel poor, compared to 24% in Scotland, and 22% of households in Shetland are estimated to be in extreme fuel poverty, compared to 12% nationally. Shetland has a higher level of fuel poverty across all tenures than the Scottish average. There is a higher prevalence in the social housing sector, with 53% of households considered fuel poor. Older people in family households experience greater fuel poverty than other household types. Based on evidence from the Council's Fuel Affordability Study in 2015-16, fuel poverty across localities varies, with a higher prevalence in the North Isles, 64%, compared to in the Central Mainland, 48%. Shetland Citizens Advice Bureau has developed specialist energy advice services as a means of tackling the issue of fuel poverty in Shetland. In partnership with the Council, Home Energy Scotland and Shetland Housing Association, they work to minimise the negative impact of fuel poverty. The Scottish Government's Heat and Building Strategy, published on the 7th of October 2021, outlines a pathway to net zero emission homes and buildings by 2045. The strategy includes an overarching ambition for all homes to achieve at least EPC Band C by 2033, where feasible and cost effective. The second ISH2 milestone is that all social housing will meet EPC Band B or be as energy efficient as practically possible by 2032, and the Scottish Government has a social housing net zero fund that will assist social landlords meet some of the costs associated with this target. In addition to this, by 2030, the vast majority of off-gas homes that use high-emission oil, LPG and solid fuels will have to convert to zero-emission heating. The map here, produced by Changeworks, shows the extent and distribution of cold homes across Scotland, with Shetland having the highest proportion of homes with an EPC rating of D or lower. From the latest annual return on the Charter from Shetland Islands Council and Shetland Housing Association, around 2/3 of the social housing stock has a valid EPC rating, and currently 11% meets the target. 8% of Shetland's CO2 emissions are estimated to come from the domestic sector. Since 2005, there has been a 65% reduction in the emissions from domestic electricity, with emissions from other domestic fuels remaining fairly static over the same period. UK government statistics show that Shetland's renewable electricity installations mostly come from onshore wind, and Shetland has the second highest rate on these installations per household in Scotland at 2.17%, with Orkney at 7.8%. This briefing paper for house condition, energy efficiency and fuel poverty identifies a range of key issues which should be given careful consideration in the development of the new local housing strategy, including addressing the disrepair in homes and improving quality standards, the impact of schemes to assist the private sector, which dominates the housing market in Shetland, evidence of the higher levels of fuel poverty and extreme fuel poverty, the current levels of energy efficiency in homes and how Shetland can work towards the net zero targets, the impact of the reduction in domestic electricity CO2 emissions and levels of renewable. To build a new local housing strategy, Shetland Islands Council needs to prioritise the main housing issues that need to be tackled to set local priorities that will guide action, partnership and investment moving forward. This briefing has focused on housing condition, energy efficiency and fuel poverty in Shetland, presenting evidence on the extent and nature of the problem and progress in tackling it since 2016. The purpose of the LHS conference is to finalise the main housing issues that require intervention in Shetland, examine the main issues in detail and generate ideas for action and investment. Key issues for consideration in the house condition, energy efficiency and fuel poverty workshop are: is tackling poor property condition, energy efficiency and fuel poverty a continued LHS priority? What are the main challenges we face in tackling poor property condition, energy efficiency and fuel poverty in Shetland? And what's been proven to work? And what are our priorities